Trevor Sargent, the question that a lot of voters are asking in the current election is, why should I vote Green? What would you say to that?
I ask people to really think about what their vote is going to mean, and is it going to result in the kind of solutions which this country needs to create employment and to be able to compete internationally and to ensure that we can face the challenges that lie ahead, not just the ones that we're currently involved in. And that really does point people in the direction of the Green Party, because in our time, our short time, just over 3 years in government, we have managed to deliver not just 20,000 jobs in areas that are growth areas, areas where for example, conservation of energy, whether it be energy installation or wind power, or developing the new smart technology, the green technology sector as it's called, all of that is creating jobs. But equally, and that's just a train going by there, but equally the future requires that we invest in employment which will get us away from our dependency on oil. That's costing us over 6 billion a year, oil and gas, fossil fuel imports. That price is going to rise as the scarcity of those resources really kicks in, and unless we are following green policies, no matter which party is in power, we won't be able to manage to create employment in the future. So the Green Party has the experience to drive that change, has the policies and the vision that can imagine as well as plan for Ireland without oil. We're saying by 2030. That's the practical time frame which will allow us to move to that. No other party is actually grasping that reality or able to deliver that vision.
But it looks like the new Dáil will be completely dominated by one party. They'll have such a majority that independent and smaller parties won't be able to make any difference. Do you think the Greens will have anything to contribute to the new Dáil?
Oh, I really do, because if we have, for example, Fine Gael with a majority, or a government with a majority involving Fine Gael, it is really going to need the Green Party to point out some of the inconsistencies that will be very clear going by reading their policies. Their New Era document essentially takes up some Green Party policies. It doesn't have the vision as to where it needs to go, and will be trying to put a green wash on business as usual. And that really is going to be so flawed that I really think the Green Party needs to be there to point up how it's not going far enough, how it won't grasp and deal with the huge unemployment problem, and it won't make us competitive because it's still continuing the business as usual model given the high dependency on fossil fuels that the country currently has. So we really need the Greens there to point up those inconsistencies and point the way, which hopefully others will follow. But if we're not there, there won't be leadership.
You mentioned there unemployment, and what's your solution to the unemployment problem in the country?
The unemployment problem is going to need a number of measures. The small to medium-sized enterprise sector, which is the heart and soul of the Irish economy, along with foreign direct investment, but we have to really build up our indigenous employment area so that we're not overly reliant on foreign direct investment, important as it is and necessary as it is to keep it. And for example, the corporation tax rate has to be kept at that 12.5% for that reason. But the tax base at the moment is so heavily on top of the commercial sector because local authorities don't have other income streams that they used to have before the abolition of rates by Fianna Fáil back in 1977, that unless we broaden the tax base, a policy shared between the Green Party and Chambers of Commerce Ireland, we are not going to grow employment, and indeed we're going to lose employment because small business won't be able to weather the burden of the commercial rates that are currently imposed. So we do need, and this has to be recognised, we do need some kind of water charge based on metering with a free allowance which will encourage conservation of an expensive resource, which is the treatment of water to make it drinkable. And we also do need some kind of fairly based property tax, which will ensure that, for example, there's an incentive to insulate your home, and therefore it'll help you to bring down the type of site value tax that would otherwise be there if your house wasn't properly insulated. Those are incentives that will make us more competitive, that will encourage more employment, and that will ensure that in the future we can withstand the outward costs that for example, importing of energy poses. And nobody's taking pleasure from taxation. Let's be absolutely clear about this. The Green Party would love it if we could just not have to have these kind of charges, but they are the fairest way of ensuring that we get employment and continue to grow our economy in the face of the challenges that are beyond our control.
Your time in government with Fianna Fáil, how would you characterise that time?
Well, there was tension, no doubt about it. Our two parties come from very different cultural backgrounds. We, for example, were very adamant that there wouldn't be, for example, a reliance on corporate donations. That met with resistance. We were very keen that bank regulation, for example, would be very rigorous. There wouldn't be any of the kind of reckless banking practices that happened under a number of Fianna Fáil governments, and naturally our coalition, the other party, were not too happy about that being pointed out. But we did have to act, and we did have to use the leverage that we had with just 6 TDs to force the appointment of the likes of Matthew Elderfield, the likes of Patrick Honan, Professor Patrick Honan, as Governor of the Central Bank. And we did have to force, for example, the abolition of stag hunting for reasons of road safety as well as animal welfare. And that did not, unfortunately, as we all know, meet with across-the-board approval in Fianna Fáil. But these are parts of the reality of being in government, and it doesn't mean you have to agree on everything, but you do have to have a programme for government, and we were determined to implement the agreed programme for government, and that's what we still need to implement if this country is going to recover, which is why we need the mandate for the 31st Dáil.
On your website, you recently had a go at your former partners Fianna Fáil over their U-turn apparently on GM legislation. What's your objection to GM?
Well, there is a very important debate for us in Ireland when it comes to the use of genetically modified food. I certainly, as one who believes in Ireland has huge potential as a clean green food island, want to see us making the most of our God-given natural advantages, and that is as a country which can sell to the rest of the European Union food which they want, and they want food which is not genetically modified. The vast majority of European citizens have said that in repeated surveys. They also want more organic food. Again, Ireland has huge potential to grow that sector, and that is irreconcilable with going down the GM road, because you cannot easily coexist between GM and non-GM. There is a contamination factor which essentially wrecks your reputation as a clean green food island if you try to serve both of those sectors. And for that reason, I really believe we cannot compete against the big GM markets like Brazil and America, where economy of scale just dwarfs this country. We have to focus on our niche, like other countries have done. If you think of a small island like Jersey milk, Jersey cattle, the Royal Jersey potato, these are all niche markets that have ensured that that particular economy is known worldwide for its unique production and its unique methods and its unique culture. And that's the kind of area Ireland needs to develop. And for that reason, GM has no place in Ireland being a clean, green food island. And we need to make sure the Green Party's commitment in the programme for government to Ireland being a GM-free food island is maintained and developed. Other people, if they go down the GM route, will have a different market, but it's not a market which the European community is going to support.
From your time in government, what would you say is your proudest achievement?
Well, there have been a number, but as Minister for Food and Horticulture, in terms of the raw politics of making something happen, which the department and many people felt was impossible, I managed to get food growing into every primary school in the country. That was going to cost money. The department didn't have the money, so I had to really appeal to the long-term interests of the food sector, and particularly the vegetable growing sector and the fruit growing sector. And I thank those sponsors for coming on board with that initiative. And from now on, every school in the country will be able to either develop or say they have tried food growing, and that's going to become a skill that more and more of us need to get involved with when food security really becomes a critical political issue, given that energy costs and food production are so closely linked.
Final question for you, Trevor. From your own point of view, in your political career to date, what would you say was the highlight so far?
Well, there have been many, but one that perhaps doesn't get reported in the media was an invitation I had from the LNH in UCD, in Belfield in Dublin, to debate the pros and cons of nuclear power with Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. Now, while many people may think Mr. Burns is just a cartoon character, he is a very, very redoubtable and talented debater. Harry Shearer, one of the brains behind The Simpsons, and he was with me in UCD with a packed auditorium, and I have to say it was a fairly nerve-wracking experience, but I'm very happy to say that Mr. Burns, and not many people know this, revealed to me backstage that in spite of his on-stage persona as a very right-wing nuclear-powered enthusiast, he actually, coming from California, votes green. So behind that menacing cartoon figure, there is a green voter in Mr. Burns, and that, I have to say, helped me to recognise that he was really acting the part of being pro-nuclear. In his heart and soul, he knew nuclear power was unsustainable and not a healthy option.
Trevor Sargent, thank you very much.
Welcome. Falch your oath.